All right, so I apologize that I am unable to be here for this lesson. I just want to say that tomorrow when I see you guys, I'll be very happy to see all of you, and everything's okay. I just have to do some work on my roof at my home, and since we're just trying to get everything squared away before the next rain happens, we want to make sure to do that as soon as possible. So again, thank you. I apologize I can't be here, but I am here in spirit and also my voice. So I would like for you guys to make sure you have Chapter 4 Quiz C out. You were given these materials a few weeks ago, so if you don't have it, it's okay. Just take out some paper somewhere you can write down some things. And also, I want to make sure that you have your TI Inspire if possible. So again, if you don't have it, that's all right. You can still follow along, but the idea is you're bringing your TI Inspire calculator to class every day from here on out. So go ahead and take some time to type in all of these brake and muffler shop bills. And while you're doing that, I'll kind of give you a breakdown of what's going to happen for this week and going forward. So this week, I would like to finish Chapter 4 really today and spend the next 3 days doing Chapter 5. And you may be thinking, wow, that's really quick. We're done with Chapter 4. Yes, but at the same time, Chapter 5 is more of a continuation of the same topics that were covered in Chapter 4. So again, this is stuff about quantitative variables, okay, looking at median, mean as measures of center, looking at range, IQR, standard deviation as measures of spread, and talking about histograms, how we can describe a histogram with shape, center, and spread, all those different things. So if you haven't gotten back into reading the textbook, I know we're slowly getting back into the routine of school, but please start to read those chapters if you haven't. It'll give you a lot of important vocab that's going to help you out as we go through Chapter 4 and 5. So again, hopefully at this point, you're almost done typing in all of these bills into a new list and spreadsheet. So I'll pull up mine. That way you can check to make sure it's the same. So we have whatever you want to label it as. I label it as bills, whatever you want here. Just one column for all of these items from this muffler shop. All right, so again, hopefully today you'll feel confident about doing some questions from Chapter 4, because after this example together, I'm going to have the sub pass out Quiz B, and you guys can try to do it on your own or with people around you. My plan before we had all of the issues was to give it as a quiz and as a quiz grade, but since we've been slowly transitioning back into school, I want to make sure that you guys have a chance to look at Chapter 4, and then we'll talk about Chapter 5. So Chapter 5, hopefully we can have a quiz at the end of the week, and that can be from Chapter 5. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started going through number 1, A, B, C, and D. The first thing when I type in all this data is I want to make a histogram. And to make a histogram, I go to Doc, I hit Insert, I hit Data and Statistics. All right, and that will basically put all of my data there, but I want to make sure that I put my variable, which is bills. It's a quantitative variable. The units are dollars. And now it has made a dot plot. Now, dot plots are great, but at the same time, they don't really tell us a whole lot, so I'm going to change it. Go to Menu, Plot Type, Histogram, because I want to make a histogram. All right. Whenever I make a histogram, I first just kind of look at what the computer or the calculator has made for me. And when I look at that, I see very, very skinny histogram bins. Notice I didn't say the word bars, because I don't want you to think this is a bar graph. These are bins, and they look to be about $20 for the bins. And so it's hard to really get an idea, because right now it may look like some of you might say it's bimodal, because you see those bins that are those 3 together around 200, and then you have another bin that's a little higher on 300. But if you look at the frequency on the left side, it just says 1 and 2. So the difference between that bin being higher is just one number going in there. So whenever I see this, the bins being very thin, I want to go and widen them to make the bins wider. If I widen the bins, that means more of these amounts, these repair bills, can go into one bin. So we'll actually start to see maybe the shape of what this distribution looks like. So I go to Menu, I go to Plot Properties, number 2, Histogram Properties. Now, some of you, when you get here, it might say a little different stuff, but the main thing is you want to go to Bin Settings, so number 2, Now, I have this option for equal or variable bin width. I always do equal, and I don't think some of you might not even have this option, which is good. So equal bin width. So again, my bin width right now says $20. So that's a very, very small width, which is why you can see we only have 1 or 2 repair bills in each of these. So I'm going to widen it to be $50. All right, so $50 for my width. I'm not going to touch the alignment here. So I'm going to do $50 for my width. And now you can see, as I scroll here to show you the entirety of the histogram, you can start to see what might actually be the shape here. Because now our frequency is going up to all the way to 4. And it looks like, I would not call this bimodal, even though some of you are seeing the 2 bins that go higher, because the one between 200 and 250 is only 1 below. So I would actually call this, unimodal and, roughly symmetric. It's not a perfect bell shape, but at the same time, I don't see any bins, or bars really far left or right. And it looks like there's a fairly decent distribution going from 50 all the way to 450. And you can see your lowest bill amount was $56. It looks like your maximum was $422. So again, I now feel comfortable about sketching this. So if you want to right now, sketch this for A. Whenever you sketch any type of histogram on the AP exam, which you will be asked to do, you want to make sure you label and title everything. So you want to title this, title whatever you want, bills, repair costs, whatever you want, and then make sure on the x-axis you're putting your variable bills or repair bills, and on the left, the y-axis, you're putting the frequency for 0 through 4. Again, just a sketch, doesn't need to be perfect, but some idea that shows that you have made this histogram. Now, what I tried to teach you guys before we left for almost 2 weeks is whenever you make a histogram, you should always be thinking about 3 things. All right, 3 things. We did that little chant and got Miss Byrne really mad at us. All right, the chant is shape, center, spread. Don't chant. Don't do it. Don't chant. But the mantra here is shape, center, and spread. Shape, center, and spread. So we need to describe all 3 of those things. So I already basically described the shape. My personal opinion is I think it is roughly symmetric and unimodal. If you have a different opinion, that's fine. Just make sure you're using things that describe the shape, like skewed, all right, like multimodal, bimodal, all right, something that describes the shape. All right, now for the center, all right, this is where you want to either eyeball what you think the center might be, that would be the median, the middle number, or you can actually wait a second and we can calculate all this stuff if you like to give the actual median, all right? But again, you want to be thinking something for the center here. For the spread, the easiest one to do without calculating anything is to just look at the range. Your highest value is 422, your lowest value is 56. You could subtract and that would be your range. Or you'd say it looks like we have repair bills from $50 to about $450, so that you're giving a range. Again, if you would like to give the actual interquartile range, that's the IQR, or standard deviation for the measure of spread, feel free. You're just going to have to wait until we do it. So let's go ahead and calculate those things. So doc, insert, calculator, menu, and I want to do statistics. Stat calculations, number 1. I only have 1 variable here, which is the bills, so 1 variable statistics. And the number of lists is just 1 list, and my list name is bills. Everything else I leave the same. Frequency category, include categories, all that stuff, leave the same, and hit OK. This is going to calculate a lot of different stuff. Some stuff we've talked about, some stuff we haven't. But again, as I said, always want to scroll back up to the beginning. So it says X bar. You know, as we talked about before we left, that we're going to use Y bar, but Y bar is the mean. That's the mean. So if I look at your paper where it says find the mean, I'm going to write Y bar equals the mean of $236.25. So we're saying the average bill, if you take your car to this brake and muffler shop, you can expect on average to pay $236.25. Again, this is kind of the cool thing about mean. If you look at our mean and you look at the actual values up here that are in the table, are any of those values the mean? No. none of those values are the mean. So a lot of times when you calculate the statistic that is the mean, it won't be one of your actual data values, and that's okay. It just added them all up and divided by the number that are there. Okay? For the standard deviation, I just use the letter S, and that's going to be, if you scroll down here, it'll be the fourth one where it says SX, which is $103.43. Okay? So again, if you refer back to a few minutes ago when I said that the distribution for our histogram, if we're saying the histogram is roughly symmetric and unimodal, then it is appropriate, I am allowed to describe the center and spread of this distribution using the mean and the standard deviation, which is what I have here in red. So kind of going through what we just talked about you always have to think shape, center, and spread. If you say it's roughly symmetric and unimodal, then feel free to use the mean and the standard deviation. Now, if you wrote down something that's not roughly symmetric and unimodal, like if you're worried about skewness or any possible unusual features, then that is where you want to use the median and the interquartile range. So I'll repeat that because it's been a long time since we talked about it. If you have in your data potential outliers or like potential extremely low or extremely high numbers that are causing havoc on your mean and standard deviation, then you can always use the median and the interquartile range. That's the IQR. So we talked about how those guys are always together. So mean and standard deviation are always linked. Median and IQR always linked. Honestly, when I report one, I usually report the other. Okay? So that explanation there is really how I would answer letter C. Is it appropriate to use the mean and standard deviation? The answer is yes, if you described the histogram as being roughly symmetric and unimodal. If you don't, then using the mean and standard deviation would be inappropriate. Okay, so that's going to be a concept that we talk about continuing in Chapter 5 and then even into Chapter 6. So make sure you understand that link in your head. Roughly symmetric and unimodal, so that like perfectly nice bell curve. You can use the mean and standard deviation. Anytime you have skewness or potential outliers or gaps, anything that looks unusual, that's when you should use the median and the IQR. Okay? Now, it doesn't actually ask for the median and IQR, but we can show you where those are. The median is $220. Median, $220. And then the IQR doesn't actually give it to you. It just gives you Q3 and Q1, so you'd have to actually subtract 302 minus 163. So looks like $139 there. Okay? So again, whatever you describe your distribution of your histogram as is going to basically tell me what I expect to see for your measures of center and spread. All right, so I know we kind of went a roundabout way, but all of that stuff we just talked about is how you would answer A, B, C, and D for this problem number 1. Okay? So again, for D, the distribution of repair costs, you're thinking shape, center, and spread. Shape, center, and spread. All three things the AP exam readers will be looking for. Did you address shape, center, and spread? Okay, so let's quickly move to number 2, because then I want to give you a chance, at least 20 minutes, to look at doing one of these on your own. It says, on Monday, a class of students took a test. Highest score was a 92, so the maximum value was a 92. All right. The next day, someone who was absent made up the test, but they got 100. So now we have a new maximum of 100. All right. And so we want to know, with the mean, median, range, IQR, and standard deviation, what would this new score of 100 do to these statistics? Okay. So if I look at the mean, all right, and again, if you want to actually make up numbers here, make up 5 numbers, right? 72, 84, 76, 91, 92. There's 5 numbers where your highest is 92, and then add in a 6th number where your number is 100. All right, you can actually just calculate it. I don't think that's necessary. I think a lot of these questions on the AP exam, they just want you to understand the concepts of what happens. So with the mean, if you add in a 100, which is higher than any of the other scores, then it's going to increase the average. All right, so your mean will increase. All right, now the median, because when you look at the median of these scores, I'm not saying it won't increase, but the median is more, what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't react as much when you add in high or low numbers. So it's more resistant, that's the word I want. It's more resistant to these high numbers or low numbers. So your max and min, or even further extreme, that would make them outliers, possibly. All right, so that's where the option is stay about the same. The reason we don't say it's going to be the same for sure is it could change. It could absolutely change, all right? But it's going to be an increment, a smaller change than if it was the mean, all right? Now the range, if you increase your highest number, then absolutely your range is also going to increase, because that's just your max minus your min. And the IQR, well, the way we do the IQR is with quartiles. And it's been a long time, but quartiles, basically, it divvies up your data into quarters. So your first quarter is your first 20%. Your middle 25% is from your quartile 1 to your quartile 2. All right, and that would be for going to the median. So I can think of it like this. So if you have your data right here, you have your first quartile, you have your median or quartile 2, and then your third quartile, okay? So it splits it up into your different quarters, all right? So the IQR is the difference from quartile 3 to quartile 1, that difference. Now, the reason that it's going to also stay about the same is because when you find quartiles, you're really just finding the medians of parts of your data. And if you look up when we did the median stays about the same because that just counts where is the middle number. So the IQR is the same concept, so that one is also going to stay about the same. Which is another reason that earlier I said median and IQR are always linked. So that's why they're behaving in the same way here. And the last one, standard deviation, just like median and IQR are linked, mean and standard deviation are linked, so your standard deviation will increase. Because if we increase the mean, then we are going to increase the distance from potentially many of your data values, your quiz scores here. All right, and if we increase the distance from those scores to the average, that's going to increase how far they deviate, so that increases the standard deviation. All right? So anyway, a lot of stuff I just went through. Again, I apologize I couldn't be here to answer any questions. Hopefully this gives you an idea of how I want you to answer the question for Quiz B. And I will hopefully be here tomorrow. That's the plan, tomorrow. And we can go over any questions you have. And again, don't be concerned. Chapter 5 just continues more of the same stuff about all of these all these concepts with quantitative variables. All right, so I'm going to end here. I'm going to have the sub pass out the Quiz B, and you guys can get started on that. Thanks.